Hello and welcome back to the 11U1 official YouTube channel. Today we're doing an Object 140 post-buff review in the latest patch. And so I'll be doing a couple of live battles to appropriately formulate my opinion and also give you guys some examples of how it performs now versus how it performed before, and then give you some idea of what I think has actually changed, if much at all, what it means for the tank in the current meta, and just generally what I think of the Object 140 after the buffs. So without further ado, let's get right into the first battle. Alrighty, so we've got a match up on Mannerheim line with 5 artillery, because do remember their batchet artillery has an autoloader, so that's going to be, oh boy, so fun. However, the important thing to remember is that they also have a platoon of Russian mediums on their team, so that's going to make it quite the difficult brawl. However, we have an Object 430U to help us out on this flank, as well as a Batchat, a Leopard, and another 140. So it's basically, we have the same lineup they do, just not in the platoon, plus a platoon of 277s that are interestingly deciding to go north. I guess we're just going to take over the north here and forget the south, which is technically not a terrible thing, because the south is very easily defended. I just somehow got hit and bounced. But the south on this map is very easy to defend from this spawn, and especially it's easy to defend from either spawn, but especially from this spawn, because there's these locations here, and you can sit back here or here in tank destroyers and just completely destroy anybody who decides to push up far enough. We're going to put some shots into this Object 430B, or sorry, AMX 30B. I was thinking of the Object 140. I'm going to turn off the voice notifications because I personally think it'll be a bit distracting. So I actually end up tracking. Let's see if I can get a shot on the EBR here. Not quite. Thing is very fast and nimble. Okay, so I've been kind of distracted by trying to talk and look at different parts of the map all at the same time. Let's look at that epic 1 damage kill. So far I haven't really been able to test the 7 degrees of gun depression. The Object 140's gun depression was buffed from 6 to 7, which is, you know, a pretty... Oops. Didn't mean to do that. Pretty marginal difference, all things considered, but it can be very powerful in combination with the buffed hull armor. I think it was buffed from, like, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe our lovely editor can put up on the screen the statistics of what the Object 140's hull armor was before and after. But I believe it's up to 260 now on a flat angle. So if you combine the new 7 degrees of gun depression with that hull armor, it is going to be quite dangerous. So we're going to quickly track the TVP, see what we can do here. I have to be careful of that Jagdpanzer, because I do believe they'll be able to shoot me if I'm not careful. So seems that they've fallen back. But yeah, so, I mean, previously the Object 140 wasn't much of a ridgeline warrior, because most Russian heavies aren't, right? So, but now with 7 degrees, it's not the greatest, obviously. Like, 8 degrees is where you start to begin to get, you know, decent as far as gun depression goes in this game. But, you know, when you look at something like an Object 907, it has 5 degrees of gun depression, and you really realistically don't have much option other than close range, in your face, brawly engagements to do in a tank like that, because 5 degrees of gun depression just isn't workable on a ridgeline, period. So that's just how it is. And so let's see if we can get some pressure on this Jagdpanzer here. Oh, I hit my ally EBR. I'm going to get shot by a Jagdpanzer here. That's bad news bears for me. Okay, we bounce a heat shell from a Jagdpanzer E100. Very interesting. I'm not really sure if that was off my hull or my turret. I don't know if this guy could see my hull exactly with the gun depression that they had. I'm not going to find out though and peek again on the Jagdpanzer that I know is firing heat rounds. I'm going to try to see if I can shoot it their cupola. As you can see though, the increased gun depression coming into effect, relatively speaking there. Being able to work that little divot to my advantage against the Jagdpanzer. Granted, not the tank with the greatest gun depression, and they were also backed up pretty far against the hill there. But all things considered, pretty decent result, especially considering that I bounced the shell from them. E100 turret armor is so strong now after the buff. Well, I mean, stronger than it was. It can still get buttered through the turret if someone knows what they're doing. And presses 2 for the skill. But yeah, so generally speaking, the Object 140 has... Like, I can't really notice a difference in the gameplay. I haven't played the Object 140 a whole ton in comparison to the other mediums that I have. So I can't necessarily give a well-rounded opinion of it because I haven't played it a lot. So I can't say, oh yeah, this totally makes a difference now compared to when it was before. But it's definitely, it's noticeable in situations where you're fighting, you're trying to make your turret armor useful, where your cupola, well, your cupolas, plural, are very obvious and very weak. And so like that example against the Jagdpanzer was perfect because I was able to demonstrate that rocking back and forth technique in combination with the improved hull armor and the ridgeline and the improved gun depression especially. So not the most amazing battle. It was, you know, the typical 5-minute game. I guess it was a little bit longer than the 3-minute raffle stomps that are becoming more meta, more and more meta nowadays. But still pretty decent, all things considered. So that being said, I still want to try out again. Mannerheim Line isn't the greatest map for like testing out ridgeline engagements because most of it's either in your face or across open fields. So let's get one more in and test out how the 140 works then. Alrighty guys, so this time we're back and we are on Lakeville. Just have to make sure the name of the map. I know them pretty decently, but I haven't been familiar enough with them to memorize all the names of the maps. Anyway, so this time we're on Lakeville. We're in a typical template matchmaking, so not all tier 10s. So this should be interesting. Another map and situation where, you know, there's 3 artillery, so I'm obviously not going to take it to the valley. Not that I would really anyway, because this tank still doesn't have enough gun depression, even with the improved 7, to work that ridgeline very well without getting outplayed by something like, even like a Renegade or an M103, if I decided to go there, that would be able to have the gun depression and the turret armor to outtrade me. I mean, realistically speaking, I would still probably win because my DPM is better and I can spend more HP than they can. But regardless, because there's 3 artillery, I especially won't go there. And then, not to mention the E50 also got a buff to it as well, didn't it? I think it's turret armor, but I don't think that buff is going to do it any good when it's driving into the middle of the map like that. Anyway, so the other thing, other than the triple artillery, is this is also another map where I'm fighting in a city which is completely flat and I don't get to test my gun depression at all, really. So even though, yes, it's not necessarily a bad map for this tank, it doesn't get to test one of the buffs it got. I can test the hull armor, I suppose, but not really to the effect that I would like. So we can actually test the hull armor against this other 140, which, as you could see there, even when it was angled towards, angled away from me as I was driving into the town, it was still a green marker indication for penetration, so clearly it's just as easy to pen it as it was before. That being said, this has 264mm base pen, which is higher than the frontal armor of it now, as far as I'm aware. I might be misspeaking this entire video and, you know, Don't quote me on it, but yeah. So for now, what's the plan? We got 2 heavy tanks over to our left, and a 140, which is now dead. Defender coming in. They're gonna be looking at me. So yeah. What I'll say about the 140 though is it's definitely still better than something that, like a T-62A. I mean, it was before, but it especially is now because of the gun depression, because of the armor, because of its you know, performance capabilities in comparison to the 62A, which is basically just the same thing but worse in pretty much every way. So all that being said, if you like to play the T-62A and you enjoy the playstyle of the Russian mediums, then, you know, why not? It's perfectly okay to play the 62A. But what I would say though is I wouldn't go out of your way to purposely buy it from the special section. I can't remember what exactly they're called. But the tanks that have been excluded from the tech tree over the 140. Like, if you're going to go for a tech tree Russian medium, I mean, for starters, I would say the 430U still, which is the other piece of the puzzle, is like, would you go for the 430U or the 140 now that the 140's been buffed? I would still say the 430U as far as, like, you know, new player-friendly tanks go. But I think for the more experienced player, they could capitalize on the effectiveness of the 140 much more than the 430U. I'm not really for sure though, because it just depends upon your playstyle at that point. But yeah. So we're having some technical difficulties here in the city now, obviously, which is tough. 705 aim armor is quite tough as well. Gonna duke out this with the 62A. Oh, they just got taken out big time. That's rough. Okie dokie. So now we're just kind of carving out the heavy tanks, keeping them lit for our Guerrilla 15, who is getting some serious damage into them over from the base side. And making sure that they can't take control of this area, because realistically speaking, we've won the valley, or at least we've pushed enough over in that direction to make them have to kind of just sit in their base. Can't really reverse side scrape in a tank with no armor. Oh shoot. Might be dead. I might be dead. I'm definitely dead here. Yep. Okay, well, that's unfortunate. I messed up there, but it is what it is. Anyway, so I think that'll wrap it up for this video. My final thoughts is that as someone that doesn't play the 140 that often, the buffs that have been added since the most recent patch with regards to the gun depression and the whole armor don't make much of a noticeable difference from when I have played it in the past before. However, I can definitely see it making a difference on a variety of maps that aren't necessarily focused on you know, super big hills and ridgelines, like a map like let's say Westfield, for example. Obviously, the mediums usually go south, and there isn't a lot of ridge play that happens there. But even there's like a little mound that the mediums fight on in the very south end of the map, which it's useful to have a pretty decent amount of gun depression with to fight on those corners. Regardless, definitely something to consider when you're trying to think about what medium you want to go up in the Russian in the Russian tech tree. Is, well, the question is, do you want to have speed, or do you want to sacrifice some of that speed for more armor? And by more armor, I mean a lot more armor, because the Object 430U still goes pretty quickly. In fact, we can take a quick look at that. Yeah, so the top speed is 50 miles per or 50 kilometers per hour, sorry. And the 140s is 55. So it's pretty negligible difference. The power to rate ratio of the 140 is obviously going to be better, but overall it's up to you. Like, and the other thing to take into account, of course, is the gun performance, because the gun performance from the 140 is going to be much more accurate, snappy, quick, higher DPM gameplay, whereas with the 122 you're going to have a longer loading time, but higher alpha damage. If you set the tank up right, it's going to be okay. You're going to have higher heat pen. You're generally just going to feel more like a heavy tank, realistically, than a medium. So it's just a matter of your playstyle. And yeah, so all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this week's video. If you did enjoy it and you did like this style of video, please do let me know down in the comments below. And other than that, thank you guys so much for watching once again. Please do be sure to leave a like if you did like the video, and subscribe if you're not a part of the 11-1 YouTube channel World of Tanks experience as of yet. And other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.